Hello, Joe Franco here, and today I'm going to go over two squat exercises, the regular back squat exercise and the front exercise. The more concerns that I have with this movement is really the proper posture and going the correct depth as far as getting more muscle involved instead of just cheating and cutting yourself off. I am more worried about full range of motion, more muscle involvement, rather than doing too much weight and just trying to rack a lot of weight rather than getting the proper distance and correct form really. As I always say, you never want to sacrifice your form to lift more weight. So I'm going to go over the regular squat and the front squat, and before I use the bar, it's really about foot positioning that's important, is setting yourself up. So for the regular squat, I like to use a regular stance, as I call an athletic stance, an athletic position. Whereas if you're playing a sport, if you're golfing, or if you're playing linebacker or tennis, it's a stable stance with your feet, whereas if someone were to try to knock you over, you're going to be nice and stable. So it's a ready position, like you're ready to get hit almost. And usually if you take that position, that's where you're going to be your strongest at your squatting stance. So for me, it's my shoulders, my heels are slightly outside of my shoulders with my toes pointed out. And with that, that gives me the most balance throughout the motion, if that's what you want. Some people are going to be a little bit different. Some can go a little bit wider, some a little bit closer. That's why you got to try it out and see what's best for you. But for me, toes pointed out, heels just slightly out past my shoulders, and that's my athletic position. So with that, if I'm holding a bar, the whole focus is just throwing the hips back, letting yourself come down, and just dropping it down, and then coming up without locking out too hard. Now, the further you go, the more muscles involved. So therefore, it's actually easier on your hip, your lower back joints, and your knees. If you stop right here, you're putting pressure, you're putting the brakes on. Let yourself go down, hips drop at knee level or just below, and then right up. I'm pretending I'm holding a bar here. So from the side, if you take a look, hips are dropping below the knees. I'm throwing the hips back, pretending I'm sitting in a chair. I'm throwing this part of my hips back, my butt back, sitting it back, and boom. So my shoulders are really staying almost in the same place. That's what you want to focus on when you're doing a squatting exercise. You don't want to think about using a ton of weight, stopping here, leaning over to think you're going down further. Keep your head up. Doesn't necessarily have to be looking at the ceiling, but head and chin up, shoulders up, along with your back, nice and arched. Now for the front squat, similar motion. Sometimes people have to take it a little bit closer, okay, just to help their balance, and you're going to rest the bar on your shoulders. This one I'll demonstrate for you in a second, but you're resting the bar on your shoulders, so if you were to let go, the weight's going to stay on your shoulders. And from the side, it's the same thing. Elbows are up, bars resting on your shoulders, throw the hips back, sit it down, and then up. Sit it down, and then up. Common mistakes again, just to review. People don't go down as far, they don't have as much muscle involved, they lose their posture throughout the exercise, to sacrifice the distance of the exercise. So take your time, reset yourself, start with lighter weights, so you learn the correct form, and then the strength's going to come back up, okay? Now, knowing when to cut it off, usually a sign of a weak core or a weak abs is when you're lowering yourself down and your hips come up first. That means your upper body can't handle the weight. So therefore, you want to lower the weight, keep your abs tight, chest up, and then boom, okay? Let me see if I can get this in view with the bar as far as the front squat goes. Now, when I was talking about resting the bar on your shoulders, what you're going to do, obviously when you have a lot of weight on the bar, you're not going to be just doing this, but this is where you want. You don't want to choke yourself out with the bar, nor do you want it to rest on your biceps at the lower point. See, I can almost balance. So I just put my hands here so the bar is not going to move. Now, a good beginner way of doing this and learning is using a Smith machine. So you're under the weight, you know the bar is not going to move, and it's a little bit safer. So you sit yourself down, and then you're here. That's how you know you got the bar in the right spot. So if I don't hit anything, So, same position for a front. Sit it down and then up. See, I'm just throwing my hips back. My hips going down and then up. Alright, so those are the two squatting exercises. The regular squat and the front squat. So hopefully you took something from there. Any questions, email me. Hit me up on Facebook, teamfrancobodybuilding.com. Check out the app. But regular squat, keeping good posture, reset your body if you're doing too much weight, if you're not having the correct form. So hopefully that helps. Thanks. Okay, it's Joe Franco again. This is part 2 for the squat instruction video, and hopefully I can tie this all together nicely. I was pleased with the demonstration on the exercise, talking about posture, taking your time, but the one thing that I left out that I wanted to touch upon was actually the tempo of the lift itself. Now, to keep this real brief, you want to take your time doing the actual lift. You want to make each rep nice and deliberate. I've seen too many times, especially in newbies and people just starting out, when they unrack the weight, they'll set themselves up and they'll just drop. And then more or less what they're trying to do is catch themselves on the bottom. Well, with that much momentum, you're not going to be using as much muscle. Plus, you're making it much more difficult on yourself to bring the weight back up. So if you're dropping yourself down, it's almost like you got to catch yourself, reset, and then come up. So a nice tempo is anywhere between 2 to 3 seconds on the descent. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then explode coming up, but still you want to be in a controlled fashion where you can stop. So you want to lower yourself down, slight pause at the bottom, unless you're doing a powerlifting meet where you will have to pause at the bottom. Down slow, control the weight. Don't let it control you. 2 to 3 seconds, pause, come up, and pause up top. I know for a fact that I like to get my rest up top. After I complete a couple reps, I'll come up, get my composure, catch my breath, instead of keep it moving. Sure, we're doing bodybuilding here, but I also like to lift a lot of weight as a goal of mine. So it's really depending what you want to do, but most importantly, lower yourself down in a controlled fashion. And that goes for most lifts. If you can stop at midpoint, then you know you're controlling the weight. That's what I like to say. If someone were to come up and tell you, stop, that's how you know you're not using too much momentum, because the more momentum means less muscle, as I said before. So just take your time. Each rep nice and slow and controlled. Okay, I think that wraps it up. Thanks.